Hello everyone, Ikuni here, and welcome back to Frightober. Frightober is a series here on YouTube where every day in the month of October I post a video of a horror, Halloween, or monster-themed video game. Today's video, we get to try out Trick and Treat, a visual novel about a boy who gets lost in the forest and the two mysterious girls he meets along the way. Now, people might be saying, Ikuni, you've already played a game called Trick or Treat. Yes, I played an RPG Maker game called Trick or Treat. But this, my lovelies, is a visual novel, which is different. It's more similar to Doki Doki Club than, RPG Maker. So it's pre-drawn stuff, very limited movement, and choices. So, just like Doki Doki and Bad End, this will take in chunks. And I guess there's 8 endings, so we will see how quickly it takes for us to, see. Is there any setup I need? Transitions, display mode, speed. We'll go quicker. Okay, back. Cool. Let's just start. Alright. I apologize for voices. My throat is not doing the best right now. The sound of our steps, combined with that of the occasional nocturnal animal, is the only thing we can hear. It's terribly dark in this place. The dense vegetation makes it impossible to see the sky or light from the moon. Our flashlights are the only things that light up our way. At times like this, one begs to not run out of battery. We walk without knowing what we are really looking for, or better said, for no reason. We are just a group of boys bored with our lives, trying to create a lasting memory on this night instead of just staying home doing nothing. Today is October 31st, All Hallows Eve, better known as Halloween. 3 young men walk through a dark, but up until now, nothing special forest, me being one of them. We are doing it to prove our courage. It's too bad there isn't a girl here to see how brave we are. Oh yeah, they're definitely high schoolers. Seeing it like that, one could say this is a meaningless effort. For a moment, I stopped to look at my watch. It's 1:49 a.m. That means we've been walking aimlessly for more than 2 hours now. So what you're telling me is that it's November 1st already. Well, cancel everything, kids. I'm sure that many people would find a place like this terrifying. But once you get used to it, the fear disappears, making it feel like normal. What makes us afraid of the dark is that we cannot know what hides in it, what lurks in the shadows. But this is clearly an empty darkness. At that moment, I sigh, feeling how tired my legs are. What is the point of being here? Clearly we had already demonstrated what we wanted. It would be best to return. I should tell them. I was about to speak when suddenly the atmosphere in the forest becomes strange. Suddenly, a cold chill runs through my body. It was like any other chill, except it was not going away. For no reason, the air's temperature dropped from one second to the other. So much so, my breath becomes visible, turning into a mist. Doesn't end there. The air is now filled with a rotten smell, just a little short from being unbearable. Images of worms and flies soon appear in my mind, giving me a really unpleasant feeling. We all stop at that moment. What's happening? I asked, confused, while turning to look at my friends. By the expression on their faces, it was easy to know that they were just as lost as I was. It was then that we heard footsteps nearby that did not come from any of us. We all got dead quiet after that. I don't know if it was out of fear or to check if it was not a mistake, but we stayed motionless, like statues, without making a noise. Just looking at each other's faces, wondering the same thing. What was happening? As if I could know. We heard the steps again. They clearly belonged to a human, or at least to a large animal, but there's something strange about them. It sounds as if the person walked dragging one foot. Just thinking about it made me shiver. Damn, why is this happening? It makes no sense. We should have returned home before, but now it's too late to regret it. I have the feeling that we're being stalked by someone. The strange footsteps stop, but I'm still feeling the presence nearby. I don't know where it is, but I know that it's looking at me. That cursed thing is looking at me. My heart is beating anxiously. It's almost as if my body was telling me to get out of there. But strangely, my friends seem unable to perceive it. It seems that it's gone. It must have been just an animal, said one of them, convinced that we were safe. I would like to believe that, too. We had a sigh of relief, however. Bad luck would soon strike us again. Unexpectedly, the forest becomes darker than before in just the blink of an eye. But that wasn't the fault of the forest, but of our flashlights, which went out. Of the three, only one, mine, was still working. What's going on? Did the batteries die? Asked one of them, scared, while they both beat them desperately as if that was going to revive them. Come on. I can't blame them. The idea of walking in the darkness was not pleasant for anyone. But after a few moments, we had no choice but to resign ourselves to that. Once more, the sound of our footsteps is heard. But the silence is different now. We're not quiet because we have nothing to say, but because we are afraid. We continue walking despite the fear that invades us. Visibility is almost zero, but we have no choice. In theory, we were walking back looking for the exit, but I can't remember anything of this forest. We could be walking in circles, and I would never notice it until it's too late. I hate the thought of it. I just want to get out of here. Suddenly, my thoughts are silenced. We hear the footsteps of someone or something. Once more, the three of us become statues awaiting the presence to go. I hold my breath while feeling my heart beating anxiously. Damn, get away from here and leave us alone! Unexpectedly, the steps are heard closer. This time they do not disappear, but rather come at us. I can't stand it. Desperately, I move my flashlight everywhere looking for the author of those footsteps, hoping for the light to reveal their identity and erase our fears. Nothing. Is that all there is around here? Just empty air. My anxiety grows with each failed attempt. I refuse to believe that it was the coast. Suddenly, when I move the flashlight again, I see a silhouette. I could not distinguish what it was, but for a moment the light revealed something. Quickly, I point to the same place, only to discover it was gone. I hold my breath anxiously. It was not an illusion. I'm sure I saw something. It was then that I hear something nearby. Without even thinking, I aim the light towards that place. What I found leaves us paralyzed with an expression of disbelief on our faces. Wow. It is a white cat with eyes of an intense red which stands before us. Her look is not the friendliest, to say something. Somehow, I get the feeling it's a female cat. Of course it is. Suddenly, she lets out a thunderous meow that leaves us terrified. It sounded more like a lion roaring than a simple cat. The echo of her meow was heard throughout the forest, making it sound more sinister than it should be. It was then that suddenly an inexplicable force hits us three. I fall to the ground, and little by little, my eyelids close. The fatigue becomes unbearable. I lose consciousness on the ground of the forest without knowing what was going to happen with me. Well, interlude before night falls. Guess we died. Oh, this must be a JRPG. I feel like we survived. Although we didn't fall, we didn't have to survive a fall of great heights. Oh, it is a day like any other, so normal that it was almost painful. The only special thing that it could be said about it is that it's October 31st. Far were the memories when I was a kid and went out with my friends to ask for sweets from house to house. Just remembering it made me sigh. I feel nostalgic. Some things were better when I was a child, or at least it seems like it. There was some who had good costumes, whether superheroes or monsters. My friends and I, on the other hand, had to use our imagination. Creativity was our costume, you could say, no matter how funny it could sound. I remember that my mother once painted red my face and told me, "You will be the devil." But it seems only she saw it that way. When we went from home to home, everyone said I was the tomato man. But those things didn't matter to me since we always had a good time. If I asked for candy now, even if I had the best costume, I'm sure no one would give it to me. Except perhaps for a scolding for acting like a child when I'm 17 years old. But anyway, I can't stay in the past. I must live in the present no matter how little exciting that might be. Back to reality, we are a group of friends who don't have any plans for today. We're still not old enough to go to a disco. Wow. A disco? I'm sure they mean club, but like, come on, dudes. A disco? Hell, I don't even think a disco exists nowadays outside of like rural towns with a population of 500. And I doubt guys as us would have any luck in that environment. The other option would be at a cuddle party. Oh, my apologies, guys. The other option would be to go to a party, meet girls, and have fun. Everything perfect, except that nobody has invited us. Not being popular has its disadvantages. Hey, Axel, let's have a couple matches. What do you say? My friend Steven called my attention while playing with the game console. Rush Red, I believe that's what the game is called, a fast and quite complicated fighting game for me. I would normally agree to play with him, but for some reason I don't feel in the mood today. I have no desire to play now. I replied with discouragement. I almost feel bad for doing it. Boring. The AI is no rival for me, Steven said with confidence. That you're playing on normal difficulty does not help your argument. I don't feel like losing, but if you want, you can challenge Alfred, I said, leading the attention to my other friend. I don't know how to play that. Axel, Alfred, and Steven, answered Alfred, doubting for a second. He is sitting behind the PC, but it seems he isn't doing anything interesting. The screen only shows a lot of text. I think he's in Wikipedia. Hey, don't you have something more fun to do? I asked with discouragement, without even thinking about what he's reading. Alfred looks at me in surprise. The actual problem of society is that people are not interested in discovering their history. He's one of those pseudo-intellectuals, always looking for any rare information to appear smarter than others. When we forget our past mistakes, we are doomed to repeat them, he added later. What are you talking about? This village is small, and its story is not interesting at all. Nothing outside of the normal has ever happened in it. Alfred laughs mockingly after hearing that. Your ignorance is worthy of praise. He pauses, filling his chest with pride. The very fact it is a small town is the reason it's full of mysteries. Did you know that 20 years ago on this date a man disappeared? So, what about it? I asked without being impressed or even interested in the least. Things like that happen all the time in all places. As I thought, you don't know the history despite living in this very place, Alfred said while adjusting his glasses in an arrogant gesture. There's a legend behind the disappearance. That is what I was reading. After listening to him, I looked back at the computer screen with curiosity. It's then that I noticed that it's not Wikipedia, but some other page. Come on, read this and learn a little, Alfred said, inviting us to read what was on the screen. Both Stephen and I moved closer to read it. Town of Abington, Oxfordshire Country, 1994. There we go. I came to this town with only 4,000 inhabitants to support them in an investigation. Truth is that never in my life have I seen something this strange. I won't say your typical detective vision nonsense that I've seen thousands of strange things in my life. I've seen many crimes, yes. Some difficult to solve, but all of them were human. Even if you don't know how they managed to perpetrate the crime, you know that they are people like anyone else. In this case, I don't think I'm able to say the same thing. Truth is that I can't understand what happened. I was called for the disappearance of a man named Matthew Graham. 23 years. Single. The last time he was seen, he was returning home from a Halloween party. He had drank alcohol, but was still sober. Or at least that's what witnesses said. Anyway, that's not something which can be explained with simple drunkenness. He apparently got lost on the way home and decided to enter the forest called Oakwood. It had rained yesterday, so the ground was wet and muddy. We could easily find his traces, which were leading deep inside the forest. Apparently, he walked for 3 hours before stopping. I say stop, but the truth is we don't know what happened then. The tracks suddenly ended up in a clearing in the forest, and that's all. There was no evidence of struggle, no other trace or pieces of clothing on the ground. There was no blood, no more footprints, anything else. The depth of his last footprints and the position they were in indicated that he was still walking. At no point he stood still. It was as if he had vaporized in the air, with all of his clothes in the middle of his walk. Obviously, I can't believe such a thing, but I can't give another explanation. The only thing I remember is that near the footprints I sensed a faint smell of rot. However, there was no animal corpses nearby. It is ridiculous to think he suddenly started to decay and became earth. In the end, the case was closed in just 3 days. With no evidence of any kind, we couldn't say anything, but that he decided to escape from the village. However, while officially there was no more to do, I couldn't sleep in peace. Thinking about what could have happened to him took away my sleep. In my mind, I thought all sorts of theories. Like, maybe everything was a plan, developed by Matthew. But in the end, they all seemed impossible. I decided to investigate more on the issue. I searched the town for similar stories, and to my surprise, I found 4 more. All young men. The story was always the same. They walked into the forest alone, disappearing without trace. Even more curious is that all of them disappeared on the same date, October 31st. But there's more. A detail that completely eliminates the possibility that is a killer or kidnapper behind this. And that is the separation of the years. Roger Bacon disappeared in 1924. Mitchell Smith disappeared in 1867. Jason Black disappeared in 1813. And the worst of all, Oswald Taylor disappeared in 1707. It simply couldn't be possible. My curiosity led me to dig deeper. I thought that the answer may be in the past of the forest. It was then that I discovered what seemed to be a simple and boring forest actually hid a great story. Before it was called Oakwood, or Oak Forest, the place was called Witchwood. The word witch has huge similarity with witch. Taking into consideration that it is an old name and language changes over time, that indicates that it was the forest of witches. Apparently, more than 400 years ago, the people of the village believed witches lived in the woods. Unfortunately, almost all the information is already lost. There are stories told in boys, without a properly written record. I just know that with the change of religion to Christianity, people stopped seeing the witches with good eyes and began to hunt them. Apparently, the last one before her death cast a curse on the forest, which even today should continue to exist. Anyway, obviously I cannot accept something like that as the answer. In the end, I have no other choice than accepting that each one of them escaped from the village, using the legend of the forest to make it look like it was something supernatural. Interesting story. I didn't know that such a thing was hiding in this town, I said, honestly surprised. Even if it was a lie, I managed to hold my interest. Wait, there's something more, Alfred said at the same time he scrolls to the comments. We read what was written there. A couple of comments call our attention. Both of them talk about some creature. At that time, they felt a horrible fear for what could happen to them. Well, the 2 comments share great similarities, but they could have been written by the same person. There are many others that deny it. Looks like many people went to the forest because of the legend but couldn't find anything. I thought that you only read these things to look more cool before the girls, replied Stephen as a joke. Alfred giggles with a little shame. Partly yes. He admitted it. That was a secret everybody silently knew. Well, now we have an activity for tonight, Stephen said at the same time he makes a face overflowing with enthusiasm. What? I asked, completely lost. I thought we were just killing time. Simple, let's go to the forest, Stephen replied without hesitation. He seemed really fascinated by the story. Are you insane? Said Alfred, unable to believe what he just heard. You only need to look at his face to know he did not like that idea. Despite everything you've heard, you want to go. Of course, it would be a test of courage among us three, replied Stephen, full of confidence, perhaps too much. He should relax a bit. Don't tell me you're afraid. No, why should I be afraid? Answered Alfred. At the same time, he folds his arms, making a false gesture of security. It's more than obvious that you're afraid, Alfred. Almost as much as when you have to talk to a girl. And what about you, Axel? Don't tell me you won't come. Suddenly, Stephen asks me, at the same time looking at me mockingly. Don't tell me you want to be the chick in the group. I hate that tone of voice he used. I will never give you that, I said without thinking, showing a confident smile and look. Well, let's not say more. Take your coats, backpacks, flashlights, and some food. We're going to the forest, Stephen said, full of energy. Yeah! We three said in unison, as if we were going to have some kind of private party. Not really knowing what we were doing or what we were going to find. 2:13 a.m. And we are going to end this episode here. I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did like what you saw, make sure to hit that follow button. That we're on YouTube. That like button. Hit subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And yeah, have a wonderful, wonderful time zone. Until next time, my lovelies. Mwah!